Ukraine attempted to assassinate the Russian president using a kamikaze drone loaded with 17 kilograms of explosives on April 2023. The drone crashed 19 kilometers outside Moscow and Putin was unharmed. The question of whether Ukraine tried to kill Putin will have significant implications for the ongoing Ukraine war. According to reports in the German media, one of Ukraine's top kamikaze drones was launched on the 23rd of April. Its target was the newly constructed Road Naval Industrial Park near Moscow because the Ukrainian Secret Service had got wind that Vladimir Putin would visit the industrial park on Sunday afternoon. What should worry the Russian strategists is that the Ukrainian drone managed to sneak into the Russian airspace. It flew for over 500 kilometers, and the assassination bid failed only because the drone that was fitted with 17 kilograms of special explosives, the type that is mostly used by the US and Canadian armed forces, crashed about 19 kilometers east of Moscow. But the question is this: did Vladimir Putin visit the Road Naval Industrial Park on Sunday? No one can be sure. Security analyst Glenn Grant believes that Ukraine was not behind this assassination attempt. According to him, this drone strike is most likely the handiwork of elements within the Donetsk region who may have had some outside help. This comes into the same basket as the attacks in and around Donetsk, which are clearly done by the Russians, not actually done by the Ukrainians. My view is that if the Ukraine is intent on killing Vladimir Putin, they will do so because it's too serious for them to play around with. Let's just say that they wouldn't use one drone. They'd use 5 or 6. Vladimir Putin's movements are closely guarded. His visit to Mariupol on the 19th of March was described as spontaneous and was announced post facto. Another aspect of Vladimir Putin's security is the use of body doubles. Western media is awash with reports that Vladimir Putin is regularly using body doubles, either due to security reasons or because he's physically incapacitated due to health concerns. Putin denies using body double. Drone strike in Crimea causes massive fire at oil ball. Russia responds with missile strikes on Ukraine. Over 55 people killed. Ukrainians hope new Patriot missile defense systems will make them more secure. The month-started Ukrainian spring counteroffensive against the Russians hasn't yet materialized, but reports of assassination attempts have not plunged the war into a whole new territory. But it is difficult to predict what on the Ukraine war will take in the coming days as the rebels. Finland's accession into the NATO military lines has altered the security framework of the Arctic on a very fundamental level. Although initially reluctant, Russia is nodding to historic maritime security deal with China. And what this means is that Moscow and Beijing enough joining hands to take on the NATO presence or the Arctic ice. The Arctic Council has 8 nations, and when Sweden too joins the NATO military lines, then 7 of the 8 nations of the Arctic Council will be part of the NATO military alliance. So how is Russia planning to take on the NATO military lines in one of the coldest regions of planet Earth? Our next port gets the details of the scramble for the Arctic is well and truly underway. The Arctic is one of the coldest and one of the most hostile environments in the world. Just about 4 million people live here. But according to the United States Geological Survey, the Arctic is home to an estimated 25% of the world's oil, gas, and mineral deposits. And the Arctic's melting ice has changed the geopolitical realities of the region. There are 8 nations that fall or border the Arctic zone: Russia, United States, Canada, Denmark, Norway, Iceland, Sweden, and Finland. And amongst these, it is Russia that has an overarching presence at the Arctic. But with Finland joining the NATO military alliance, and Sweden too on the verge of jumping onto the American military bandwagon, the Arctic ice shelf is increasingly beginning to look like the NATO ice scab. So how does Russia counter this? By bringing in an ally with formidable economic and military might to blunt NATO's edge. China is 1,400 kilometers away from the Arctic Circle. but Beijing likes to describe itself as a near-Arctic nation, with the stated ambition of wanting to become a polar great power by 2030. Well, the 25th of April in the Russian city of millions close to the Finnish border in the Arctic Circle, Russia and China signed a deal for maritime law enforcement for the Arctic. At this moment, China has invested a staggering $90 billion in infrastructure assets of the Arctic. Russia is encouraging non-Arctic nations like India, Iran, and Saudi Arabia to expand their commercial presence in the Arctic. Russia has aggressively expanded its Arctic defense capabilities, reopening 50 previously closed Soviet paramilitary forces, refurbishing air bases, radar stations, and border outposts. The Novaya Zemlya Island is home to the Robertsville Air Base and S-400 air defense missile systems. Russia has deployed more military resources in the Arctic than all other NATO nations combined. In Sudan, civil war and ethnic conflicts have brought life to a standstill. The government-created paramilitary force, the Odyssey, has impacted the lives of common people in Sudan. Invasion after 9/11. The picture's Swat Valley once had been a stronghold of Islamic militants who had imposed strict Sharia law there until the Pakistani army flushed them out in 2009 and restored normalcy. But of late, this semblance of normalcy has been frequently shattered by militant attacks. Everyone is in a state of shock. The residents of the Mingara and soldier towns in our district have given great sacrifices in the war against terrorism, and the hospital was overflowing with people clamoring to donate blood. In conclusion, in a recent assassination attempt, Ukraine allegedly used a kamikaze drone to kill the Russian President, Vladimir Putin. The drone crashed about 19 kilometers outside Moscow, but the use of such weapons is concerning for the escalating Ukraine-Russia conflict. The war is already intensifying with a drone strike on Sevastopol in Crimea and missile strikes on Ukrainian cities. The recent acquisition of the Patriot missile defense systems by Ukraine is a step towards their defense against Russia. With Finland joining NATO and Sweden on the verge of joining, the Arctic region's geopolitical realities are changing rapidly. The melting ice has exposed oil, gas, and mineral deposits, causing countries to scramble for resources